On February 3rd, 2017, the Pokemon TCG's Sun and Moon expansion was released, showcasing 7th generation Pokemon hailing from the Alola region for the first time. Sun and Moon also introduced the GX mechanic to the TCG, adding a huge plot twist to the EX era's multi-prize EX mechanic. Players could now choose between various GX attacks within their deck that they could call upon once per game to change the tide of a battle. And, crucially, unlike EX Pokemon, which were always basics outside of Mega Evolution, GX Pokemon could come in all shapes and sizes, breathing new life into the iconic evolution mechanics of the Pokemon TCG. In this series, Jack and I will each open one booster box from a Sun and Moon expansion, then we'll each build a deck entirely from those pulls and battle it out in a best of 3 series. The winner gets bragging rights for the week and a point on the scoreboard, while the loser gets to add some extra cards into their deck, giving them a boost into the following week. A new expansion will be introduced each episode, increasing our card pool, diversifying our strategies, and hopefully strengthening our decks. This is the OmniPoke Progression Series. So there are 11 GX Pokemon in the Sun and Moon block, and I think there's a couple of things that really stand out to me here. Umbreon and Espeon, both really, really good options. They have cheap, efficient attacks, decent GX options in both of them. The Divide GX in particular seems like it offers a great amount of control, and thanks to the Energy Evolution Eevee, these are really easy to get set up to be great pressure Pokemon. There's also a couple of great colourless ones. The Gumshoos GX, not the best card in the world, but getting some information on my opponent's hand could be incredible, and Tauros is, again, just a really good colourless beat stick, and forcing Jack to play around the Mad Bull GX attack seems very difficult. Both Lunala and Solgaleo, they could go in the same deck because they have that same evolution line, so if I get them both, I'm really in a dreamer land, but the Soul Burst GX is insanely powerful, Sunseal Strike is very dangerous, and the Ultra Road throughout the entire game is going to be massive, and then the Lunala option to spread energy around, especially if I have like Lunala and Espeon, that would be absolutely insane. For the water stuff, the Primarina doesn't seem all that good, but I suppose you kind of have to play it if you don't have many other better GXs. Lapras is crazy though, just because Collect allows us to draw 3 in early game, that's absolutely nuts, whilst offering, again, just decent attacking options. The Incineroar basically has to make you go all in on fire, which I don't know how good that is, but Grass is really, really appealing. The Decidueye, again, Hollow Hunt when we're sort of short on resources that are actually that helpful could be pretty handy. Feather Arrow, very flexible damage, and the Gust is limited in the draft for now, so having some bench pressure pings from arrows is pretty handy. Lurantis, again, just an early pressure poke kind of guy, and has inbuilt healing as well, so actually kind of tanky. So of the GXs, I think the colourless one's always good. The Solgaleo and Lunala are massive build-arounds. I think really the GXs are going to define how the deck is built, but there are some other cards I want to look at as well. Who could forget our good friend Oranguru, that Instruct allowing us to draw until we have 3 in hand. Honestly, the supporters aren't that great, and we're going to have a finite number of those, so I do think this can help out getting cards here and there, and the Psychic is, again, just a generically solid attack in this format for the high hit points that this Pokemon has. I also think myself and Jack are likely going to be trying to draft a number of Passimian. I think we'll each be playing 4 of these and just hoping to weave in some team play, especially if we can get some double colourless energies. We're going to be weaving in these attacks when we can, and that Fling option with Fighting Energy, again, not to be slept on. If we're going to be hiding behind the bench, having Fling plus Decidueye would give us a lot of bench control. And then I'm hoping this could be my secret weapon. The Alolan Raticate line actually seems really, really good in this format if we have a little bit more time. The Rattata already just has free retreat, which is nice, but the Evil Orders for 2 colourless, and again, there's double colourless in the draft. We can search our deck for any number of cards up to our bench Pokemon, then shuffle our deck. So absolutely insane that we can accumulate a number of Stage 2 Pokemon. And I think if we are especially looking towards like Decidueye, Vikavolt, making an incredible deck come together that way, Evil Orders could be huge. And to be fair, the Endeavor attack is like fine. Yes, you're flipping coins, but if you've already commit DCE to the active, sure, Endeavor can just weave in if your opponent's not pressurizing you back. These supporters are going to sort of be the foundation of our deck just for cycling, because we have very few options to draw. And of course, as we open more packs, we're still going to need more supporter draw in here. The Lily supporter is obviously sort of the best option. Ilima is actually our best disruption, and I think ultimately I'm going to be putting all of these in my deck for now. The only one that can't draw us cards is the Team Skull Grunt, so I have to make a decision on this whether I think it's worth it or not to have it in the list. Because we're drawing so few cards, I feel like it actually could be valuable disruption, but I'll only really try and weave this in if I have space and I have that sort of lower to the ground deck with less stage 1 and 2s, and if I'm more basic focused, surely I'll be putting these into my list. But if I'm going to have to fit lots of Pokemon because I do well on the GX front, I'll probably have to give this one a miss or play a low count of them just to keep Jack on his toes. For the item cards, there's some crucial ball search. There's Nest Ball, Great Ball, Timer Ball, and Ultra Ball, so we shouldn't have too much issue actually getting our Pokemon into play. We have those rare candies, which is of course going to be big if we can get some of those nice GXs. There's Pokemon Catchers as well, and I think we're going to have to play Pokemon Catcher within our list. Again, if I'm playing low-to-the-ground basic attackers, I think Crushing Hammer Skullgrunt could just be a package, take us back to the base set days where we just have some disruption at our side. It's only really going to be things like Vikavolt that heavily punish that, so that's something that I have on my mind right now. And for special energy, the Rainbows could be really good for Solgaleo, and the double colorless energies are absolutely insane for so many of our Pokemon.
Good ball search options. We have Great Ball, Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, Timer Ball, and even Pokeball. So there's a lot of ball search options, which is interesting. There is energy recovery. There's not a huge amount of Pokemon recovery. That's fine. We have got some Shuffle Draw and some Raw Draw. So yeah, I think it's a good set to start off with. I don't think there's huge amounts that we can do in terms of like strategizing beforehand, but I think there are some things that we like particularly want to look out for or hope to pull. Energy Acceleration I think is going to be a key one. Lurantis GX and to a lesser extent Vikavolt I think are actually pretty powerful cards, just because in these kinds of formats a lot of the time it's just tempo, who can set up a board and start to get going quicker than the opponent. The thing with Lurantis GX, there's not great ways of discarding energy, so Flower Supply isn't wholly as strong as it has been in the past. So I think Vikavolt is actually by far and away a really good build around and the best build around in the set. I think Lapras GX and Tauros GX, the two basic GXs, are really strong. Just because, again, tempo, really good. Lapras, you with collect drawing cards is going to be really powerful, I think, if we can pull some of those. Similarly, I think Espeon and Umbreon GX are going to be quite good because we can use the Energy Evolution Eevee to search them out and evolve them and start attacking with them quite quickly. Another big piece of a tempo deck puzzle could be trying to pull some Persimmons. That's really good, as well as some of these Alolan Pokemon that have free attacks. So yeah, there's a lot of things we can do in terms of trying to keep the tempo. I think that's going to be one of the best ways to try and overcome these early weeks while we're still building up like a collection. Oranguru, obviously another really good one. High HP basic, has some draw power, has a decent attack. Typically good in these kinds of pre-release style formats, which is kind of how I'm thinking of this. I think any GX is going to be really important. I think GXs, especially some of the stage 2s, have such overtuned stats compared to like regular basics. I think Decidueye is honestly really, really strong, but again, is a stage 2. We have to be quite lucky to be able to pull off a consistent and bulky line of that where it's going to have some real impact. The Crocodile is another 2 energy attacker that potentially can be like quite a consistent attacker just for a double colourless energy, which is in the set, which is important. So yeah, that's quite interesting. The only other thing I made note of is obviously there's a huge amount of colourless types, but the 2 most popular types in the set, or the 2 most, or the types with the most cards in the set, are water and grass. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind in terms of when we're thinking about potential decks Joe may build, because the types that we're going to have theoretically in abundance are going to be grass and water. So there's not much metagaming we can do, but we can start to maybe think about potential avenues that Joe may go down. We're on Cube Koga. We're going to start week 71, and yeah, we're going to have 36 packs of Sun and Moon to kick off with, and I'm gonna try and point out some notable cards. I'm not going to go through every pack in detail. Double colorlesses, I really want to pull some double colorlesses. I think that's going to be really important. Again, these are just great for trying to set up attacks, especially things like colorless Pokemon for getting you into the game, so that's important. 1/1 Rowlet and Dartrix, that's nice. Great balls, like to see some of this stuff.
Alright, here we go, Sun and Moon. Let's start our very first draft and get into 36 packs here. We are going to start our week 71, which is going to be week 1 for us. This is the 71st set in Pokemon history. Let's get into pack number 1. Oh my god, Jack, it's over. It's actually over. Ultra Ball Tauros in our first pack. This is just an insane, generically strong GX Pokemon. Jack is actually cooked right now. I'm going to try and make these a little bigger so we can all see the pack that little bit easier. That's awesome. Wow, already Tauros GX. Rage, Hold Attack, Pressure with that 60 damage poke. If Jack's playing Evolutions, he's already in trouble. Even the Herdia as well, getting back the option to get Pokemon Catchers or Crushing Hammers. That's something I shouldn't sleep on either. Nice, we get an Eevee and a Alolan Raticate in this one. Not too bad at all. We have our first Persimmon. Got to keep an eye on those. And Rowlet as well. I'd love to be drafting. And Cosmo. Yep, some good basics there for sure.
Ultra Ball and Nest Ball in the same pack. That's fantastic. Got a Palisand as well. Herdia is quite an interesting one, letting you recover a trainer. Or an item, sorry. Again, I don't think there's huge amounts of crazy strong items in the set, but that's fine. We can potentially just get back ball search cards, which is just really important. There's a Furo with Devastating Wind that shuffles the opponent's hand and makes them draw 3, which is interesting.
Oh, nice! This is awesome. Wow, this pack is crazy. Herdia option, Candy Desi in the pack, and also Illimer. So we're going to have good early pressure and Feather Arrow to fall back on. Yeah, this is looking really nice so far.
Our first GX is a Gumshoes GX. Have we got any... we've got 2 Young Goose. Gumshoes isn't too bad, especially... given that it's a colour, so it can kind of splash into anything. Gumshoe Chance is a fine GX attack, letting you deal more damage based on the amount of energy attached to them, which is great. And then Headbutt Bounce, again, similarly, just 100 is a decent amount. Search Supremacy is obviously pretty good as well. Again, more double colourless is great. We're up to 3 DCs now, which is really nice.
Our first Incineroar, I think that's basically a bulk GX. I probably won't be playing that one. I really don't feel like it's worth powering up. I'll be probably focused on other things.
We did get a Solgaleo GX. Soul Burst is fantastic energy acceleration. What's our Solgaleo line like? We've got a 2-on-1, so this is the only other energy acceleration that I could see that we could potentially splash into basically anything, as long as we don't mind putting some metal energy into the deck. I don't think Sunsteel Strike is particularly strong. It may be good for dealing with like AGX or whatever. So we maybe, if we do end up playing the Solgaleo, we'll run a handful of metal just to be able to try and Sunsteel Strike and deal with a GX to close out the game or something. But again, with no gusting, quite hard to do. Well, sorry, I say no gusting. We have Catcher, no reliable gusting, I should say. But regardless, Solgaleo might just be good for its ability anyway, being able to pretty much freely switch around. Could be good with like the strafe attacks and stuff like that. Golduck is an interesting potentially 120 for 1 if you discard 2 water energy from your hand. Again, I think we really need to have a lot of energy retrievals to be able to pull this off quite consistently. But quite an efficient stage 1 attacker, which is quite cool.
Oh my god, second Tauros! Okay, we're popping off. We have so much dangerous early game pressure here. This is crazy. Finally a Lily as well. You'll love to see that. Umbreon, interesting. So I'm likely playing colourless energy for the most part, but I could have a split of darkness energy and grass energy as well. I think strafing into Tauros also has great value. Threaten that Mad Bull GX early.
Do have a Crocodile. Like I say, I don't think Crocodile is the worst. Quite consistent for a double colourless. Probably is hitting like minimum 60, 80 for a double colourless on quite a bulky stage 2, which is cool.
Oh wow, Lurantis! Okay, this is perfect. We're getting Decidueye, Lurantis. Yeah, okay, nice. I think that's my third Persimmon as well. Yeah, we're going to be very aggressive with this list, I think.
Got a Guru. Guru's great. We've got a Kukui as well. I think that's going to be really important for trying to set up KOs where Joe may not be expecting them.
Alright, I think this deck really gets unlocked if I get a second Decidueye. I only have 1 Rowlet, 1 Decidueye so far, so I need to find some mid-evolutions. I need to find more Rowlet in here as well. We have 10 packs to go. Second Umbreon. Okay, so Persimmon, Umbreon. There's our Dartrix as well. A How comes into the mix also. How many supporters do we have so far? 12, but 3 of them are Skullgrunts right now. Yeah, that's... We need more for sure. Lunala GX. I got to think about whether or not I want to have Psychic Transfer in the deck. It's not that high damage output, so I don't think it makes my deck unless I get Espeon. I think that's when I would maybe think about pivoting.
Lapras GX is great. Really like that one. The Rare Candy is also good. Nest Ball. How's our water line doing? Primarina, again, isn't overly powerful, I don't think. But we're starting to build maybe an element of water.
Oh, third! I have 3 Tauros GX. That's insane. I've got Rainbow Tauros. Triple Tauros is just insane pressure. I have to time the Mad Bull pretty well, but Horn Attack and Rage is just insane tempo. How many double colourless have I got so far? I've hit no double colourless? Are you kidding me? No! My whole strat relies on double colourless. I've got 3 Tauros, for God's sake. Where are they? I still only have 1 Decidueye line. Maybe it's not coming together. Maybe my slow attach approach is going to be just horrific now.
Another Crocodile. I don't know how our Crocodile line's not doing terribly. In fact, that's probably one of our more bulked out, thicker lines, which is good.
3 more packs to go. Can I get any double colourless energy here? This is horrific. If I whiff double colourless, it's such an essential card. Especially for my strategy. Primarina is not it. Crushing and Timer. Uh-oh. Lapras coming in. Like, maybe I could weave that in just for... If I'm playing just grass water now as an option, maybe.
Well, the Golduck isn't bad. I really think we're going to be leaning into water here, so I don't mind... I feel like we're going to be looking at like a water/dark style deck, potentially. Some more good trainers, another Illimer, that's nice. Still no Lilies, which is really annoying. Lily is a really important one, I think, just as some good draw. We're actually really struggling on the supporters, I think. Only 3 Hows, like, Well, 3 Hound, 2 Kukui is raw draw. That's not ideal. Final pack. We do get an Umbreon GX. That's actually really good because we're going to be going down the dark line. We did get a Lily as well, and we got a rare candy. So, yeah. Okay, we will end the week, and we will have a bit of an analysis as to what we have.
I hit 3... So I got no Solgaleo, no double Colorless Energy. That is rough. So I think I need to lean heavily into the Umbreon. I'm probably playing a 4-2 Umbreon GX line. I think that's guaranteed. But man, double Colorless Energy would have been so good with my deck. I think with no double Colorless, I basically sack off the rats. Maybe I have to think about dealing with weakness, because I'll have Tauros and Umbreon all weak to fighting. So maybe I look to splash in... Well, I didn't even get any Crobat either. Huh. Maybe I need to play... Oh, I didn't even get any Cosmoem, so I can't evolve into Lunala without Candy. Yeah, this is going to take a minute for me to try and fix up a deck here, because I've got some glaring issues with my packs.
I think just because we only pulled a 4-1-1 Solgaleo, it's not going to be strong enough, so I think Metal we can pretty much write off. I think we're locked into Water Dark with an element of the Umbreon GX evolutions as well. In terms of trainers, 4 DCEs is really good. It's really going to help with things like that. Like I'm pretty sure I'm going to play the Gumshoes even though we've just got 1, just because I think Search for Premises is really good. Headbutt Bounce, like I think it's just a pretty efficient attacker. So yeah, in terms of trainers, I think we kind of low rolled with our supporters. Not going to lie, we got 1 Lily, 3 Howl, and 2 Kukui. Like we're probably going to have to play both of our Illimer. Yeah, I think this was quite a weak draft, to be honest. It's a shame. I think in previous drafts I've done, not necessarily of Sun and Moon, but in previous drafts I've done, obviously you're meant to get like 6 GXs in 36 on average. So I think we kind of low rolled, but regardless, I think we can make it work. XP shares are going to be pretty important. Yeah, double colors, like I say, are really important. We did get 4 rare candies, which is really good for long term. It's going to mean that we can potentially play... Maybe we could play another stage 2. Maybe we can play a couple of stage 2s because we managed to get some rare candies. That's interesting. We could potentially play like the Stoutland stage 2, and we have Herdias to also like pick up the candies back to be able to help with the crocodiles and stuff, which is interesting. Similarly, we could just play some of the rare candies. We did get 4 Nest Balls, which is great. We got 3 Great Balls. We got 2 Ultra Balls, 2 Timer Balls. So we may have to play a couple of Pokeballs, but we're not reliant on playing all of them, which is great. A playset of Crushing Hammers, of course. We've got 1 Pokemon Catcher. That will be going in the deck. We will be crossing our fingers to try and make something work there. 2 Switch. XP shares, Poison Barbs. Yeah. Okay, I'm not blown away, but I'm not too upset. I think we can make this work. I think we can try and see what we can build with this. So yeah, I'm going to go and try and build a 60, and we will see how it goes, and I'll see you on the other side.
So here we are. This is the deck that I've constructed for week number 1. It's a bit of a weak deck, honestly. I'm a little bummed I didn't get any double Colorless Energy. That actually shut off a lot of the things that I was expecting to play. I was really hoping that I could have a good early game Persimmon package. Firstly, I only drafted 3, and without double Colorless, I feel like they're not as good. They obviously get diminishing returns and fill up your board as well, so possibly they're a bait, but I'm actually terrified by coming up against Persimmon because I have so much stuff weak to Darkness. It's only really the Lurantis and the Decidueye that can really get into the mix and be all that helpful against that deck. What I've tried to do is use the Herdia to my fullest extent. So I've got 1 copy of Big Malasada. There's going to be a heal and a way around status, which I'm using the Spinder for Confusion, just as a cheap 1 for 30 Confuse option. But then, as you can see, I've got 2 Catcher, 2 Hammer, 1 Energy Retrieval. This is the only one I drafted, otherwise I'd think about Golduck as a very cheap, efficient attacker. I've got the 3 Switch and 1 Energy Switch, so I hope at least, that this is going to be good against trapping strategies from Catcher. You know, if Jack's just got more Decidueye than me, he might just try and make some trapping plays, do some sniping attacks, that sort of thing, and just use the value of Feather Arrow. I think that's one thing we have to bear in mind. If I can high roll Catchers early and just 60 Rowlets with Tauros, that would be absolutely insane. So I think Herdy is going to be like my all-star, essentially, where I try and use him to safeguard me against any strategy Jack can employ, whether it's trapping, whether it's energy removal, that sort of stuff. I should have a lot of coverage, and of course, at the very least, it can get me Ball Search back if I really want to. I have 3 shots of using the Treasure Hunt, so I have to be very selective of when I'm using them. But the essential strategy is early pressure with Tauros Umbreon. I'm really hoping an Illimer gets an early heads tails in my favor, because I feel like I'm going to really need that. I've had to scrap the Team Skull package. I don't think I have the space for that sort of disruption. So that's the 60 cards that I've sort of come to. I thought about going down this very annoying, like, colorless or zero energy attacking line where I have, like, Butterfree for annoying paralysis and switch attacks. Masquerain is a, like, move energy round thing. Andalo and Persian, which has a free energy, switch your opponent's Pokemon with that active, and Clawren is also pretty efficient. But I think if Jack just picked a Solgaleo, if he just got that from his packs, it's completely written off. So I basically sacked off of that, like, weird mill approach where I just think it loses to a Solgaleo probably if Jack just has Ultra Road available. Even the Lunala to an extent, that whole strategy is just in the bin, and these are some of the strongest stage 2s, so I think I don't want to play around that too much because I feel like he could just have hit those and then drafted that deck entirely, so I'm a little bit afraid of that being the case. I'm also very afraid of fighting. Like I said, I have the Lurantis, I have Decidueye. I also debated this Fearow. I think that's probably the best thing I could have played. The Devastating Wind is a really annoying shuffle effect. They only draw 3, and with us playing, like, well, I'm on, 10 supporters right now, that could sometimes be very, very detrimental to Jack. But also the Slashing Strike, 1 for 60, and you have that inbuilt resist. I think that could be a defense against Passimian, but I think that's really the only fighting type that Jack will play, if any, and that also depends on how many double colorless he drafted. Like, maybe he has Passimian and 4 DCE, and that's just going to blow me up entirely, and I think I just have to accept that for week 1, because I think the Lurantis offers way more than the Fearow does overall, because this is really my only energy acceleration, the Flower Supply option in the list. I'm hoping that even with just 3 Ultra Ball, I can maybe get some energy in the bin early. Naturally, we're like paying retreat and suffering knockouts, and the Flower Supply can be that sort of mid-game reload. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. But to be honest with you, I'm hoping to just beat down Jack early with the early pressure of Umbreon Tauros and cross my fingers and hope for the best. This is, I think, a 5 out of 10 deck at the very best case scenario, so I'm going to have to time my Herdia very well if I'm going to get the win in the end here.
So this is the list that I settled on. I went, instead of trying to play 2 different types in the Water and Dark package, I've just gone for Dark. I think Lapras and Golduck are potentially really strong options, but I really like the potential of having early Umbreon. Being able to search out Umbreon I think is very strong, and also I just think Crocodile isn't a terrible stage 2, whereas I think the Water package, whilst being really strong, potentially wasn't as strong as, or wasn't going to be as consistent as this, because it was only like a 3-2 Golduck and 1 Lapras, whereas this is at least a thicker stage 2 line and a GX. I went with a like a 4-3 Fearow line that I hadn't initially spotted when like going through the set and having a bit of an analysis, but this is quite an interesting one. It's got 1 for 60, and you can't use the attack on the following turn, but I think that's fine because you know, it's only 1 energy, we can retreat, we can switch, that kind of stuff, and it's also got a Devastating Wind attack, which would force Joe to shuffle and only draw 3. Obviously, there's a bit of anti-synergy there between Crocodile and Fearow, but I think this could be a really good disruption tool in the early game whilst trying to set up not a huge amount of draw support, like on-board draw support. I think there's Guru and there's not much else. So could mean that Joe is really reliant on supporters, and if he's really reliant on supporters, you know, shuffling and drawing 3 may mean that he misses the supporters and stuff like that. So I think there's the backup option. I think primarily though, I just like the 1 for 60 on a stage 1, which is quite nice. Being able to just, you know, start dealing damage early, quite a bit of damage early as well, which is quite useful to start putting pressure on. Also, interestingly, the Spearow has a 1 for 40 on grass types, and again, as I mentioned in the chat that we had before, grass is one of the most common types, so I think there's a decent chance that Joe runs grass, so that's like a nice upside as well. But yeah, I really like the Spearow. It's not amazing, but I think it could be a nice early game pressure option. Obviously, I mentioned the Crocodile already. I think there's anti-synergy there, but I think it's a half-decent like mid-game attacker, quite bulky, 150 HP. 120 Obsidian Fang, discarding any tools, could be really good for getting rid of any EXP shares that Joe decides to use, since this is one of our better energy acceleration tools. We've got the Umbreon line. This is basically the biggest reason why I built around Dark, is because I think if I can find a way of getting this Umbreon out quite quickly, we could run more EVs just to try and start them more, but obviously with only 1 Umbreon GX, they have massive diminishing returns if we play a lot. So I've actually just gone for 2. We have full Nest Ball. We have we don't have a huge amount of basics anyway, so I don't think it'll be the most difficult basic to find. And obviously with 8 Dark Energy, we should then be able to get into Umbreon GX quite consistently. We've got a couple of switch as well to be able to get in there and try and cause some issues with Strafe and Shadow Bullet early. We've also got Dark Call GX, which works really well with the Gumshoes, and the Croc also discards cards from Joe's hand as well. So there's like a mini disruption hand damage or hand discard element to the deck, this little package. I don't think it's particularly strong, but it's there nonetheless. We've got the Young Goose and Gumshoes, again, pretty diminishing returns on the playing more Young Goose, but I think Gumshoes is worth it. Again, it's a really good GX attack, and also just another consistent attacker. And then finally Guru for a bit of on-board draw, plus also some, just a big basic, never too bad. Played all of the supporters we've got. A little bit sad still about the supporters. I guess I didn't play the Team Skullgrunt, but I'm not going to play the Team Skullgrunt. I don't think it's worth it. Even though we do have that disruption package, I think it's likely that Joe's going to have too much energy for us to discard anyway. Maybe I should have lent into the disruption and played Crushing Hams and stuff as well. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, just played all of the draw supporters we have. Basically all the ball search we have other than Pokeballs. I think this is a fine amount of ball search without Pokeballs. I don't really want to play Pokeballs, plus I don't mind just playing more physical Pokemon than Pokeballs because I think we need to be on the board quite quickly. A couple of Switch, couple of Repel, and a Pokemon Catcher. I think this could be quite good in the early game with the Slashing Strike from Fearow trying to push things out of the way, as well as the spread damage that Umbreon does. I may be able to take a couple of prizes in one turn or something like that. So yeah, I think this could be quite annoying. I don't want to invest too much into this sort of stuff. These are the only ones I got anyway, so I guess I'm putting as many in as I can, but I wouldn't play any more Repels. I would play more Catchers probably, but I wouldn't play any more Repels. But yeah, I think it could be a nice element of disruption with Slashing Strike in the early game to try and maybe pick off some basics. Pretty happy with how this has gone. I think the other alternatives were basically taking out this Dark package and playing a Water package with the Golducks and the Lapras, and maybe like the Crabominables and stuff. I don't think it's quite as strong, purely because it'd be a lot of different, I think the Lapras is incredibly strong, and I'm quite upset we weren't able to weave that in, but just because its attack cost is basically purely water, it meant that we had to then play quite a lot of water energy, which took away from the Umbreon or the likelihood of being able to get the energy evolution out, and then because of that, there's no energy search in particular in the deck, so it just felt like it wasn't lining up properly, so I think I had to make the decision between one or the other. I think if we weren't playing the Eevee package, I would potentially just play the Crocodile and Water Energy and not worry about Obsidian Fang and just have Crocodile as an efficient 2-energy attacker. But because I think the Umbreon is so strong, that's why I've ended up going this way. The list doesn't look as bad as I first thought it would, the decks would, but we'll have to wait and see what Joe's got. We'll see how it matches up to him, and yeah, we will see how this goes.
So let's meet up with Jack and get this battle underway. So I've joined up with Jack. We've both built our decks. We've really struggled over it, I think, by the sounds of it. I know, Jack, you were between a couple decks, you were saying, and you've landed on one of them. I was kind of forced into one direction. There was maybe a couple other... I did pull some GXs that I'm not playing, just because of, they don't really synergize with the deck. I don't know how well you did on those sort of GX pulls, but I think the majority of them are quite good. It's just if you can shove them all into one coherent 60. And the list itself is kind of funky. I think I've got some decent elements in here, but may not have the highest power level. How did you find the draft, first of all?
Yeah, it was interesting. I had you'll have seen in the preamble for people watching, but I kind of went over some of the GXs, and yeah, I agree. I think there are a lot of fairly good GXs to pull, and a lot of them didn't require too much investment in terms, or it didn't feel like you were making a bad deck just to use a GX, if that makes sense. I was pretty happy pulling any of them.
Yeah.
And as long as you got the supporting evolutions or whatever, it was kind of fine. So I don't think I did too well on the GX front. It's going to be really interesting to see how each of the drafts went. But I was the few ones I got, I was fairly happy with. I think obviously could have been better in some areas, but I was fairly happy. I also am not using all of the GXs I pulled, so that's kind of the same. But yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how these decks look. Elements, I think, look better than I was expecting. Elements definitely look worse than I was expecting. So, but yeah, I think I got something coherent, and it's going to be interesting to see whether it translates into an actual interesting battle, I suppose.
All right, let's get into it. Hold on. I don't want to do a standard match. Hold on. I certainly want to do a expanded beta casual match against you. Well, should we try and queue up together?
There's no
3,
way.
2, 1, play! And good luck to you, Jack Old.